Hey guys, welcome back to the Joe Silverback Show. I'm your host, Joe Bunton, and I just got finished with a meeting with a dear friend of mine, Jonathan Seville. Jonathan was one of my professors at UCSD back in the 80s, and I think he is one of the inspirations for this show and for how I got an interest in teaching, because Jonathan was one of the most engaging professors I've ever had and continues to be one of the most engaging minds I've met. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful for this relationship. I tried to get Jonathan to come on my show, but he loves his quiet time. One of the things that we were talking about today was how feminism and a certain aspect of feminism has interfered not only with men and boys and the issues that we've discussed already with the confusion among boys just being themselves, and part of being yourself as a boy is this male aggression and a male assertiveness. And that conversation, one of the conversations that I want to put out there is that any of our conversations really are about humanism and how we can be the best human being we can possibly become. And in order to be the best human being we can possibly become, we have to be willing to be honest about the differences which make us individuals and the differences which make us a man or make us a woman. And I have long since been thinking about this male hierarchical patterning that definitely destroys any kind of thinking about, male privilege. And what I mean by that is that let's just take our culture, American culture, and my growing up from 1962 to 2019. So 56 years of being part of the American culture as a white male. So if we took all white males in my 55 years or 56 years of being here and being part of the pecking order of just white males, we took black males out of the picture, we took brown males out of the picture, we took females out of the picture, we took all different colors of male out of the picture, just all white males. And you took the top 100 of those white males and you put them on an island. Soon you left them alone to their own devices. Soon you would have what's called a natural pecking order hierarchy. It's called King of the Mountain. And as a little boy, in my neighborhood, all the kids were outside playing, and we would go up to the field, and there was this mound, this big dirt mound, and we would play King of the Mountain. And King of the Mountain meant, in order to get to the top, you had to throw other males out of the way. In order to stay at the top, you had to keep other males from throwing you out of the way. Now, just imagine that there's 100 of us and we're playing King of the Mountain and we're all white males. Guess what happens? That's right. 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 out of that 100 end up staying at the top of the heap most of the time. It's a pecking order. It's hierarchical. It's of nature. And it's essential for us to understand that nature. Now, let's take those 100 all white American males all out of the picture, and now we're going to throw 100 females. First of all, if there are 100 females, they're going to find their own pecking order probably, and I would like to get some women on here who can talk about pecking order among women, but it's vastly different. They don't end up playing king of the mountain as much as males do. But they do play their own king of the mountain, and sooner or later you're going to get the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more aggressive females. Remember, it's all white females, and they're now going to be at the top of the mountain. And everybody accepts this because it's nature and because there's no choice. Period. That's it. Now, let's take the top 25 or 50 of those all-white females and take the top 25 or 50 all-white males and put them on an island together. And you're going to see a natural evolution of hierarchical arrangements that are going to happen where 99.9% of those females, even the most aggressive of them, are not going to want to be at the top of the pecking order. Why? Well, Jordan Peterson talks about Sweden. Listen to Jordan Peterson. Listen to his interviews and his conversations with the data and the research on the most egalitarian Western Europe white society that we know, where quality of opportunity is as equal for females as males, and something fascinating happens. These females tend to turn toward nursing and nurturing careers, and they turn toward wanting to nurture and take care of family and home more than the men by a long shot. And the men tend toward more interest in things, in engineering and making things. I'm not going into that conversation. That's Jordan Peterson, and he's brilliant. Now, feminism, we all know, did some very beneficial things over the last 100 years in terms of bringing women's rights into the forefront of our consciousness. The destructive thing that they did is that they forgot about that huge percentage of women in the middle there that have no interest in competing with even females for the top tier jobs, let alone males for the top tier jobs. So we have this thing in males that make them more competitive, make them more aggressive, make them more assertive. And the only thing that society is coming up to a conclusion with is that we would like to eradicate that. We would like to give injections to the most aggressive, most assertive, most dominant, most high-achieving males so that they can be slugs. And we want to pump up women with testosterone so that they can become more like men. But when we take away the forced injections to the males so that they can be more passive, so that they can be more feminized, and we take away the injections to the females, you're going to see a couple things happening. One, I as a male know automatically that where my place fits in. So my friend Jonathan and I were having a conversation, and we understood that our intellectual powers and our sharpness of mind wasn't anywhere near Jordan Peterson's. And that's a bow down in a hierarchy of somebody whose mind is extremely sharp, who has a database of research and has a linguistic capabilities that is much, much greater than mine. And that's pecking order, my friends. That's male hierarchy. That's human hierarchy. So automatically the males, if you leave them alone, will understand that plenty of them are just going to be worker bees down here, because they know they don't want the stress and strain to be in the higher levels of the hierarchy, because they don't want people grabbing at their legs to throw them off of the mountain. Now, if you look at women, they are all whole different level of interest in the king of the mountain and the pecking order. And the one thing that has been greatly missed in the storytelling about why women end up where they are today, I can tell you with some stories of my own. I went to a very high-ranked university with high achievers called University of California at San Diego. I got there because I was just like Tim Ferriss was talking about, like some of these guys with peak performance are talking about. Not because I was as bright as most of the people there, it was because I suffered more, was willing to suffer more and endure more. I was never one of the bright guys, but I was a butt-ass, kick-ass hard worker, and I would study 8, 10, 12 hours a day, competing with these guys that barely had to study at all. They were just brilliant. So at this university, I was in my last year, I was dating a lady who had a intellectual brain that was sharper than mine. Her photographic memory was incredible. And we were having these conversations because it was the 80s and everybody was supposed to be, you know, all women who had the ability were told that they should be putting career above everything else. So fast forward from dating someone at 2021 to now she's 30 to 35, and a great many of the high achiever females that she was encountering, and I'm telling you, she was a very brilliant young lady, were finding that careers were not what mattered to them as much as they thought they were what would matter. And their families were extremely important to them. And they were now thinking 10, 15 years later that they had made some tactical or decision-making mistakes. And that's what I want to talk about here, is this, if we want to have a really clear conversation about the family, and if we want to understand that the family is centered around creating this environment for the child, and if we understand that the woman who bears the child in her womb needs to have an environment where she can feel safe and secure and sound, we have to take the pressure off of girls from making them feel that they have to be boys, from making them feel that they have to be peak performers, from making them feel that they have to be the highest achievers. We have to be willing to look at the fact that there's a whole range in hierarchies, and females are different than males because of their ability to give birth, their biological ability to give birth. And because of that, a high percentage of females do not have the testosterone-driven personalities. They don't have this peak performance, high achiever mentality, and perhaps we're making a huge mistake in placing this burden on them. And then they're screwed in so many ways in their lives because they really should have been taught how to be whole human beings, and they should have been taught to get in touch with and solve the question of what do they want to create in terms of family life. And we need to unpackage that. We need to unpackage that. Psychologists like Jordan Peterson, who have been on the cutting edge for decades of dealing with clinical work where they're having to deal with males and females all the time who are needing to sort out a lot of this stuff, could be helped if we gave everybody a break and understood that we need to accept that men are born with different talents and propensities and genetic material than women, and women are born with different talents and propensities and genetic material than males. And if we value the human being, we will take this pressure for equality off, and we will unpackage and unwind this neurosis that's happening in our society, where our men are feeling they can't be themselves, and our women are feeling that they have to be super women. Just think about that for a little while. The topic of this is compassion for the female child, compassion for the male child, and learning from nature how to help our children find who they are and where their real place is in the natural pecking order, by getting out of their way and not giving them a prescription for disaster. Okay, that's it for the Joe Silverback Show for today. It's a gorgeous Saturday. The sun's out. The beach is calling. Namaste. That's supposed to be my gorilla growl.